Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yes, I'm a school teacher. You have to say good morning. I'll talk to you later, Donna. Detention, out. So, my name is Beth Mynatt. I am the chair of the CCC, and it is an absolute delight to welcome you to our biennial symposium on connecting computing research with national and societal priorities. CCC in one slide. Our mission is to catalyze the computing research community to envision audacious research goals, and we do that in 5 major steps. First is that we convene, we bring the community together, just as everyone here is together today, to talk through, discuss, engage, debate the future of computing research. We take those visions and we communicate that to a broader set of stakeholders, again represented by the people in the audience today, both within the Washington Beltline of the agencies, but the nation as a whole. And then we work to facilitate investment, to inform investment, anything that we can do to reduce the barriers to the community coming together to be able to pursue this research. Throughout all of this, we want to inculcate values of leadership for folks such as yourselves who are willing to step out of the lab, out of the day-to-day engagement with research activities, and think more broadly about our nation's agenda and where we are going forward. And then we want to engage not only the senior, the gray in the room, but also the early career researchers that are coming together. And you'll have a fantastic opportunity to do just that later today. We purposely situate the work of the CCC in the rapidly expanding world of computing research and how computing touches many aspects of our daily life. And I hope that will be visible and important in the discussions that we have over the next 2 days. It's also quite important to us that the CCC is made up of membership of the computing research community from across the nation. Berkeley to Harvard to Lehigh to Georgia Tech to Facebook to Amazon to Google. We represent many, many aspects of the computing research community. Arizona, thank you, Nadia. I saw the look. A terrific number of institutions and a fantastic set of colleagues who are willing to serve 3-year terms on the council to pursue this mission. So our key activities, day in and day out, and you'll hear more about this throughout the symposium and at the close. We hold visioning workshops. We accept proposals on an ongoing basis as the computing community wants to come together to engage the what next, what should we do, how do we wake up, shake up our community. We also do that at major conferences through the Blue Sky tracks. And then we pull all of this together through our reports and white papers to be able to communicate that message. So as an example, one of our groups has engaged the questions of intelligent infrastructure over the past year. That's been an extremely important topic for us, not surprisingly, the lead-off topic for the symposium this morning. So in the spring, we produced a series of white papers that are, of course, available on our website to inform many, many, many aspects of the debate around the future of intelligent infrastructure. And one of the ways that we do that is our council is also organized by a set of task forces. Think of this as the ready-at-hand SWAT team to be able to catch, engage, and work through topics that are near and dear to the heart of our community, as well as near and dear to the heart of the priorities of our nation. So this year, our task forces are on artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, the human technology frontier, intelligent infrastructure again, post-Moore's law computing, and privacy and fairness. So you're not surprised to see many of these concepts, many of these topics appearing in the symposium agenda for the next 2 days. So what do I want us to do while we're here together? Again, this symposium is a bit different than a traditional workshop. More presentations, but ample room for discussion in the hallway. But this is where we want to create that connectivity, understanding not only what is happening in computing research, its history, its legacy, its impact, its future, but why it matters to topics and issues that are near and dear to our country. So we would like to inform. So you should learn something new over the past 2 days. I've taken sneak peeks at most of the slides, and I've already learned quite a bit. So I want to inform these discussions, but maybe more importantly to also frame them, perhaps in some new and interesting ways. Too often, topics perhaps such as AI or even smart cities get framed in very narrow, stereotypical ways in the media, in the popular press, or even in Hollywood movies. We need to open up, we need to dig deeper and think through the richness and depth of these research areas to understand and chart the path of our community going forward. And to do so, we want to catalyze. We want you to walk out of this symposium, whether, again, gray researcher or early career researcher, and think about something that you're going to do differently in your career, in your research agenda, in your lab, in your engagement with students and colleagues going forward. And then we will do everything that we can to help propel you forward, to help you be able to take those next steps. This is the beginning of the conversation. This isn't just a 2-day event that evaporates. This will continue for us with the CCC and our engagement with you. So what are we going to talk about? I want to start that framing today, this morning, to perhaps advertise a little bit of foreshadowing around the topics that we are going to discuss, to allow you ample time to engage with the panelists, with the speakers, with our plenary speakers, and again, lots of time for hallway conversation as well. So our first topic, and I realize I have no way to see the clock. Okay. Our first topic is going to be around intelligent infrastructure. The infrastructure that our country depends on is incredibly important to the economics of our communities, to our health, to our daily, day-to-day activities. And you've read many of the reports that sometimes the U.S. gets maybe a favorable D+ rating on many parts of our infrastructure. And so there is urgent discussions, both in DC and beyond, about how to remedy this. And one of the things that our community wants to point to is, despite those urgent, critical needs of today, it would be a missed opportunity for us if we didn't also think about the infrastructure of the future and to understand the capabilities and the IT technologies that would enable us to have smart, intelligent, advanced-looking infrastructure to fuel our economy going forward. But despite perhaps the appeal of living in something that is smart, that is intelligent, that it is able to perhaps make our life more efficient, there are deep questions about how to accomplish this, and our panelists are going to tackle those today. So instead of imagining a Jetsons-like experience of automation and efficiency and regulation, the real world of infrastructure is messy. It is messy in fundamental ways that are near and dear to what makes our lives special and vibrant. And it's also just messy in terms of the set of stakeholders that surround these discussions. So our panelists and speakers are going to talk to you about the role of infrastructure in responding to natural disasters. Unfortunately, we've had way too much of this in the headlines this fall. Multiple hurricanes, even one got as far as Atlanta. The wildfires that are still plaguing the Northern California area. How should our infrastructure be resilient in the response to those disasters? But how should our infrastructure also be repurposeful? How can you take the day-to-day infrastructure and then say, okay, well, we have something critical going on here. You know, what is the switch that is flipped? What is the connectivity? What are the capabilities that emerge in those situations as well? So you're almost double engineering into the infrastructure, not only day-to-day existence, but the ability to respond in time of crisis. We're going to talk about what it means for cities and municipalities to grapple with investments in intelligent infrastructure. What does it mean for Decatur, Georgia, a nice little town within the greater metro Atlanta area, to invest in infrastructure that would require its own IT department? We're not going to have those types of resources available throughout our world. And what does it mean to understand the balance between public investment and the role of for-profit companies in this space? And then most importantly, I think this panel will push us to not think of smart cities or intelligent infrastructure from an urban-only perspective, but to think about the role of intelligent infrastructure across our country as a whole. What does this mean in rural communities? The canyons of the Southwest are different than the urban canyons of New York City. You need different types of technologies. We need new innovations in wireless, new innovations in new communication technologies to meet those needs above and beyond what might be offered more in the for-profit enterprise in urban environments. So we're going to have folks that are going to talk to us about the future of agriculture with respect to intelligent infrastructure, as well as about the role of infrastructure in the most rural parts of our country. So just, again, terribly excited about the conversations that you're going to experience this morning. After lunch, we're going to focus on the topic of artificial intelligence. And we have purposely framed this around amplifying human abilities. Our society has a deep fascination with AI, whether it is reservations about job losses and about the role of automation, or whether it's more of an existential fear of singularity, or whether it's just the delight and the dream of having intelligent assistants being able to respond to our every whim and desire. And what I expect from this community and from this panel and the set of speakers, again, is to push us much, much further, because we are eons away from replicating what a human being can actually do with respect to artificial intelligence. But we have tremendous opportunities if we look at the combination of how AI amplifies what human beings do. And the speakers today will narrate how this is actually fundamental to the history of computer science. If you look at post-World War II computer science agenda, that was the agenda, was how do we actually amplify cognition, how do we amplify thought, communication, collaboration. And the speakers are going to push us even further to say, how do we amplify creativity? How do we amplify empathy? How do we pull these pieces together? And what we will discover, I think, in the conversations today is that we have a fabulous agenda in front of us that talks about how these pieces come together in brilliant and amazing ways. And one of our speakers is going to push us even further to say, you know, it's not just deep learning or machine learning by itself, or it's not just expert systems by itself, but what if we start to creatively put these pieces and parts together that include crowdsourcing, that include pulling from the intelligence of the community as well to create mixed intelligence that are, again, focused about amplifying what people can do individually and what they can do together. So those perhaps may be the easy topics. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about security and privacy. And of course, you can't pick up the headlines, and I did not look at the headlines this morning, without fears about cybersecurity. The security of our infrastructure, the security of our businesses is incredibly important just to the economic prosperity and well-being of our country. But what we've asked from the speakers for this session is to push deeper. And in this case, we're going to talk about security and privacy necessary for the core processes that make up a democratic society. How do we have technologies and processes that give us faith in the elections that we hold? How do we have security and privacy and technologies that give us faith in the news that we consume, in the ways that we interact each other, in ways that provide forums for free speech, for the open exchange of ideas? And perhaps we have fallen down a slippery slope to not realize just how important those technologies are now to the fabric of our everyday life and to the fabric of our nation. But that's an area that we need to engage, and I think we need to engage it urgently. So the speakers in this panel are going to, I think with a little bit of cup is half empty and cup is half full, discussions about where we are now and where we can go. Because this is an important collaboration. If we talk about AI amplifying human abilities today, we are now talking about the capabilities of these technologies to amplify our core fundamental beliefs within our country and how we engage with each other as a society. So we're no longer talking about just extending the individual or extending the team, but we're now talking about how we extend a nation. And so these conversations are going to talk to us about all the way from hardcore cryptography to how do you build fundamental processes with very messy stakeholder engagement to drive us forward in the goals that we have for our society. And then In the next session tomorrow, we're going to pull many of these things together because we're going to return to our discussions around artificial intelligence, and we're going to pull in our discussions of privacy and how we want to function as a society, as a nation, and talk about data, algorithmic decision-making, and fairness. I couldn't resist. A colleague of mine found this image. I suspect everyone is aware at some level of the Target marketing snafu when their algorithms were able to look at what was seemingly innocuous purchasing decisions to predict if someone was pregnant. And in this case, it's not the obvious things like buying a stroller or diapers. It's things like buying unscented lotion and particular nutritional supplements. But this went awry for Target because in their attempt to contact the desired customer, they first interfaced with that 15-year-old's father. Not a move that Target wanted to make, and it's something that they've attempted to remedy. All right, I'm going to get the better version of this later. But nevertheless, our society is now moving into an arena where, creepy marketing is one thing. But what about all of the data that is out there about us that is just part of the normal exchange of daily life, but that data taken together with new algorithmic capabilities is able to discern information that we would take as being private. And then how do we pull that data together in our ability to make decisions as important as informing our judicial system regarding sentencing or regarding convictions and regarding policing. So this particular panel is going to help guide us through this terrain, to help us to understand, again, that there are fundamental computing capabilities in the mix that when married with the processes and integrated within the systems could provide a better path for us forward than perhaps where we are muddling now. But we're in a very difficult space now, and it's going to take sustained collaboration. Remember that view of computing? Here is computing, and here are all of the stakeholders surrounding it. It's going to take sustained collaboration and engagement for us to understand that path forward. So in all of the discussions that we're going to face in the next 2 days, again, I think people are now looking a little daunted when you're looking at me. This will also be fun. But we're going to dig in, and we're going to ask ourselves questions about what should be the future computing research agenda. What do we take back? What do I take back to my students in the laboratory? What do I take back to my classes? How should we articulate that agenda for our community going forward? And I hope it is obvious through my remarks. The second question is, how do we create the multi-stakeholder engagement and collaborations necessary to do this well, to inform the problems that we are working on as a community, but more importantly, to be able to collaborate, to integrate, to be able to deploy, to be able to understand processes of adoption and rejection, so that we understand how these systems could change our day-to-day existence in our society. And then finally, a next step of a difficult question for us, what is the role of public investment in computing research? What is the role of public investment of open and transparent infrastructure around all of these challenges and its relationship to private industry? What is the role of open data? What is the role of transparent systems in decision making? And how does our computing research community create that foundation for us? Now, luckily, we're going to have some smart people. So Farnham doesn't know this, so someone text Farnham and say Beth has teed him up for some really difficult conversations. But Farnham is going to come and talk with us at the close of today. And familiar to many of you, the interim president of CMU, past science director at NSF, to understand, again, the history, the legacy, and then the agenda going forward for our community. And then the vice chair of the CCC, Mark Hill, is going to chair a panel, again, with some esteemed experts to grapple with these questions as well. So representation from NSF, from NIH, from DARPA, and from Silicon Valley. But I also want to point to the importance of that approximately 50 brilliant minds this afternoon will be tackling different aspects of all of these topics in our poster session. It's a critical component of how we build out the symposium is to have nominated nominated early career faculty. We do have some students and some postdocs in the mix, to bring their part of the research agenda, their part of this ecosystem, and to be able to present that and discuss that with the rest of the audience today. So I think that's going to be a fantastic opportunity for us. So in close, again, we want to take a set of thorny topics in our world, thorny topics for us as computer scientists in terms of the algorithms and the systems and the designs that we needed to create, but thorny topics in the way that they impact and influence our society, and thorny in the types of collaborations and the types of agendas we need to drive going forward. We want to inform, frame, catalyze, and propel you forward. So if you think of everybody write down your to-do list for the next 2 days. Think about a topic in a new way. Surely something across the 4 sessions will give you some new information, something to take back to your colleagues, something to tweet, something to put on Facebook, something that allows you to say, aha, I never thought about that. Walk away with meeting at least one new person. I guarantee you there's not a single person who knows everyone in this room except for maybe Ann Drobnis, our director, and she'll still find someone. And then as you're thinking about that new topic and you're thinking about the new folks that you've met, start to walk away with a new proposal, a collaboration, something that it's like if I could go back to the lab and square away a little bit more time in my schedule than I have right now, or thinking about that next proposal you're going to write, what would that be, and what would be the one concrete step that you can write down today to say, I could do something different as I move my agenda forward. Because it's great if we discuss this, and it's great if we inform others, but it's only really going to matter if it changes our actions as to what we do, it changes the actions of how we bring this back to our colleagues, our students, and it changes the actions of the system as a whole. So thank you very much. I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm amazed that everyone is sitting closer to the restrooms as opposed to the beautiful waterfront view, but we'll take that, and just welcome to the symposium. Thank you.